All right. Those that know me know that I live and breathe sports. Love talking about it. Can talk about it every day, all the time. Really never get tired of it. You might get tired of hearing me talk about it. And of all the sports I like to talk about the most, basketball is definitely my favorite. As we all know, Kobe Bryant passed away recently. Everybody's been talking about how sad it is for him to have gone away, how it, came out of nowhere. Everybody feeling for his daughter, the other individuals that lost their lives in the helicopter crash. And it's definitely been tough on me from a standpoint of just being somebody who's in that same age group, of seeing this guy come up through the ranks and watching his career unfold. I'd say I'm not going to get too much into his death. I'm feeling for him and his family and the family of all those involved, just like everybody else. But what I always like to do is talk about sports. And Kobe really meant a lot to the game of basketball, which happens to be my favorite sport. So I just want to talk about Kobe in my eyes and what he meant to me. You see, Kobe Bryant, who I used to always call Not Quite Mike, and I'm going to stick to that, even in his death. He was, one of the greatest basketball players, as we know, that have ever touched the floor. And he earned my respect over the years, just from a standpoint of him, everything he stood for and everything he did out there. But it took some time for that respect to get to the point where I am today. And I guess the place where I was long before he passed away. I came up in a time where, I still remember all those commercials. You all remember them. Sometimes I dream that he is me. Can't you see that's how I dream to be? Boom, 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 boom. And y'all can finish the rest. But MJ really meant a lot as I was coming up and where I really started learning about basketball. Watched it in the 80s a little bit. I was young. But MJ, I remember, especially in those 90s, and how he was a phenom in everybody's eyes and considered the greatest before he even started winning championships. He was being called Jesus Christ in basketball shoes before the rings. The media was proclaiming him the greatest we had seen before the rings, and the only thing that was driving him, I guess, and thing really holding him, not holding him back, but making him have that drive that he had to win those rings, was the media, who would get on him about the fact that, a scoring leader on a team, shooting guard, couldn't lead a team to a championship because it just wasn't something that you had seen up until Mike actually did it. So as Mike was coming up through the ranks, once he was killing, and then once he started winning rings, the media wanted to see the next Mike. Now that we know it can be done, now we want to see another person do it. And it was a bad thing, and from my perspective, that the media was doing at the time, because it really crushed a few people's careers, because Mike was a hell of a competitor. So whenever you threw somebody in front of him that was supposed to be the next him, especially while he was still playing, they was in for it. And he was going to show you why they weren't him. I remember Baby Jordan, Harold Miner, Isaiah Ryder, even Jerry Stackhouse coming out, and he was from Carolina, wing player. So just like Harold Miner and Isaiah were wing players and athletic, but Jerry Stackhouse coming from Carolina, just like MJ, they wanted to make those comparisons. All those guys fell short, and really fell short too, because they had to come in the league with Mike and have Mike dog them and show the world that they wasn't Mike. You even had your Penny Hardaways and Grant Hills, who played on the wing but wasn't quite the same type of player as MJ. Penny was a pure point guard at 6'7". He could score, but he was a one, which you really hadn't seen in the league outside of Magic. Nobody above it 6'5". You know, you had Oscar Robertson back in the day at 6'5", but Penny, you know, he was a beast, and you know, he actually gave MJ some difficulty when he was in the league, but MJ even was able to show he was the man against Penny. Grant Hill and him never really had to square up as much against each other because that was Scottie Pippen's guy, who he had to check. But all that being said, Grant Hill and Penny, due to injury, even if they were going to be heir apparents, we got robbed of that because of the injuries. But then comes along this guy, 1996 draft, Kobe Bryant. Here they go again saying the next Mike. And for me, that was just tough because it was like, here we go again. I don't really, I don't want to hear about the next Mike. Ain't nobody Mike. Ain't nobody going to be Mike. Let's just move on. Let this dude be whoever he going to be. Not to mention at the time, I was a big Allen Iverson fan, being that I really watched Georgetown basketball a lot. AI was the guy, and he was the number one pick in that draft in 96. This guy, Kobe, Jerry West went and got him, made the trade everybody knows about to get him to LA. And seeing Kobe's game, I realized he definitely played like Mike, but again, here's another guy trying to be like Mike. At that point, I hadn't given him the name Not Quite Mike because I hadn't even seen him enough to know if he was even that yet. I kind of resented at the fact when he came out at first, when he was starting in an all-star game based on popularity, and he wasn't even starting on his own team. Eddie Jones at the time was starting on that team. He had to come off the bench just so we could see Kobe and Mike square up against each other. But Kobe showed me something in that all-star game, his competitiveness, what his drive was, and that, he really wanted to be Mike. More important than wanting to be Mike, I think what helped Kobe get to where he was is everybody came in the league, a few things. Well, let me back up, a few things. Kobe came into a league at a good time as Mike was fading off a little bit. Mike had retired in 98, came back. We don't even want to talk about them years when he came back too much. So Kobe didn't have to face MJ trying to show the world that he ain't MJ, like your Isaiah Riders and your Harold Miners and your Jerry Stackhouses and all them. So I think that was beneficial. But also, Kobe was probably the first person not trying to be like Mike. Kobe wanted to be better than Mike. I didn't realize that at first, but as the years went on, it was definitely apparent. Kobe wanted to be better than Mike. He believed he could be better than Mike, and that was his drive and his push. Watching him and AI compete over the years when they first got in the league, AI came in the top pick, the better player at the time, and it looked that way for a while. I remember me and my man John Patton having a lot of discussions about Kobe versus AI. Remember when they played each other in the finals? AI put in big work, still to this day. I'll say I thought of the guys out there on the floor, him, Kobe, Shaq. AI showed in that series, he was quite possibly the best player on the floor. But he was by himself, and, he was going against Kobe and Big Diesel and a better team, better coach. And they went down just like all of that was the case, 4-1. Even with AI dropping, 35 a night or whatever. Giving Kobe 30 in the first half of game one when everybody wanted to see Kobe be the AI stopper because he had slowed him up earlier in that season. Phil took Kobe off of AI after that first half in that first game, and he didn't do a whole lot more guarding AI for that series. But he made sure he made all the key plays that he could to win games. He was a significant factor in sending AI home, and Big Diesel being there with him. Kobe knew how to play off Shaq, how to push Shaq, how to be there when Shaq needed him, especially in them fourth quarters, because we all know Shaq couldn't hit free throw to save his life most days, even though he had some big moments where he did in big situations. Kobe just showed me a lot in that series, but more so as things went on after 2001, when he was continuing to win rings, continuing to be one of the best players out there on the floor. At the time, you could have argued where he was in the top 5. I thought Shaq was the best in the league at that point in time. But Kobe, in his eyes, thought he was the best in the league. Thought he was, moving on to be better than Mike. And he got his opportunity, as he said before. He wanted it. He knows that it had to happen with him and Shaq parting ways for him to really prove what he wanted to be. And you could really see that drive in him when Shaq left, because he never had the chance to do the things that he got to do afterwards, even before he started winning. After the situation with him and Shaq, you got to see more of just the individual Kobe. I think that's when I really started gaining respect for him even more so. I remember when he was ready to play by himself with the Lakers, and AI made a comment that he's looking forward to seeing how Kobe gonna be when he's facing double teams like Allen Iverson, like Shaquille O'Neal. Because one of the things Kobe benefited from in them days in LA, he got to play one-on-one all the time. Shaquille O'Neal was getting doubled before he had the ball, definitely once he got the ball, and sometimes triple team. When him and Shaq was playing together, one of the big reasons they lost to that Pistons team that year, aside from injuries, was the game plan. Probably the first time in the finals where a team had a guy they trusted to just try to guard Shaq one-on-one, and not to mention Larry Brown, who had realized from the time he went against the Lakers in Philly that whether you double or triple Shaq, he gonna get his anyway. So let's switch it up. Let's put more attention on this Kobe guy. Let's try to double him more, put the pressure on him more. We're gonna leave Ben Wallace on the island with Shaq. Shaq gonna do Shaq. Let him do what he do. Let's see if we slow Kobe down, can we beat him? And it worked from what I was watching. It was a real good game plan. Granted, if Karl Malone had been totally healthy, if Gary Payton had been totally healthy, maybe there's a different outcome there. But regardless of that, what happened. And after him and Shaq parted ways, Kobe and Shaq, he went right to that Mamba mentality out there on the court. I think that's when that really emerged. He started killing, on his own, facing double teams, facing triple teams, still giving people work. Averaged 35 a game for a season, which hadn't been seen since Mike had averaged 35 and 37 back in the 80s. We saw him score to 60 in 3 quarters. Saw him score to 81. Still remember where I was the day when he scored to 81. Thought people were joking, just like when he passed the other day. It's like, that can't be for real. That wasn't gonna happen again. 81? Are you kidding me? That's like a video game. I had to see the game for myself, and even watching it, it looked like a video game. And what was crazy about the game was that they needed Kobe to score those points to win. It wasn't like he was rubbing it in the Raptors' face or something. Like, he was putting in work with a garbage team that he was on at the time that needed the Mamba to come out and strike. And he was striking over and over and over. It was ridiculous. The dude was in such a zone that year. It was amazing to see, and I'm blessed to have been alive at a time to witness it, because it was incredible. But even though Kobe accomplished all those individual accolades in those mid-2000 times, he was losing. Now, I was paying attention to that too, but I wasn't holding it against him, because I could tell he ain't had no help. even when he quit against Phoenix. That's probably the only down moment I remember of being like that heart that I know Kobe had. Like, it got to him. He was drained. I think that was one of the times where it hit that, yeah, I can kill. I showed everybody that, I can't be guarded. I'm the best individual talent in this league right now, but still need help to win a ring. MJ needed it. Magic needed it. Kobe's career it was interesting because he got to almost have like a MJ career and a Magic career. Magic, he was a Lakers fan growing up as a kid, but he also idolized Michael Jordan. And he came into the league like Magic with the best big man in the league, on a good team, good coach, and got the win immediately through his contribution. It wasn't like it was just given to him, but in a good situation. Then he got the experience what Mike experienced, not having a lot of help, killing night in, night out, but realizing I need some help if I want to get this done. And so when the help came, he started again winning. When he got Pau Gasol, buying them, they started doing some things again in LA. Even though I knew that year, believe I won some money that year, when the Celtics beat them with the big three. As soon as they were put together, it was obvious. You had a guy like Paul Pierce, who was the killer, kind of like Kobe. Ray Allen, who could play off of anybody, and was a marksman, but not that alpha. So I knew he wouldn't get in Paul Pierce's way. And Kevin Garnett, who could just play with anybody, and was the defensive guy, was an anchor, a big man. So I just knew that was going to fit. And sure enough, it did. And they was in the right points in their career. And they went there and snatched it from Kobe right away. But he needed that. That was his first MVP season in the league. I thought, he could have probably got an MVP before that, but he was on a losing team, and winning does matter. But in terms of him looking like the best player in the league, I thought he was that already before he actually had won the MVP. Matter of fact, I would argue in 2008, I kind of thought LBJ was already emerging as that dude. When you really go back and if you look at those numbers, I still remember him vividly that year. I thought LBJ had at least as good of a year, if not a better year, and now he didn't have the guys on his team, whereas Kobe did. But I was glad the league gave him that award because he deserved it. He's the type of talent where you would just assume he'd have had 2 or 3 MVPs at least. But he got the one to go ahead and put that, in his room list of awards. And he took that loss to Boston and went right back to work like he always does. He ended up beating Orlando that next year, the year we was watching all the commercials and thinking that the puppet commercials I'm talking about with LeBron and Kobe, and we was anticipating, the young guy coming up to challenge Kobe Bryant, and we didn't get to see that, not that year or the following year when he won. But I learned a lot watching Kobe as he went and snatched Orlando's heart that year, and then came right back against a team that probably had more talent on it than the one he was on, and willed his team to beat Boston that year. That game 7, when they got that W, that wasn't Kobe being normal Kobe, killing, dropping a lot of buckets. That was Kobe working harder than everybody on the floor, leading his team in rebounding. When he got big men on the floor with him, that's supposed to be their job. But Kobe was showing how much he wanted it and how he was going to do, as he said, whatever it took. He said he didn't know how they was going to get it done, but he knew that it was going to happen. And I don't know how in the hell he knew that, but obviously that was the will he had, the drive he had. That was what the Mamba mentality was all about. And he showed it. And when he won those 2 rings by himself, for me, really solidified him and his greatness, put him on a whole nother platform for me. as a player, and he had all my respect at that point. And he had already, for me, passed my man AI in terms of just from an individual talent, like I said, from what I saw during the years right after Shaq left and what he could do when Shaq wasn't around, which I kind of suspected from watching him play, but I just needed to see it. You got to prove it. You can't cheat the process, and Kobe, that's one thing he never did. He never cheated us out of anything. He left everything on the floor through the Achilles injury, kept playing. That last game, we remember him playing in. I remember watching it. It was, you had to debate, was you going to watch the Warriors going for that 73-9 or Kobe? And at the time, I liked Steph Curry. I liked what the Warriors was doing, but it was Kobe, and I was never really Kobe was never my favorite player, but basketball was my favorite sport. So I respected what he meant to it. And it was just, you had to see his last game, and I was so glad I tuned in, because at that point in Kobe's career, Kobe wasn't the man no more. He wasn't dropping buckets, but that night, Kobe was leaving it all out on the floor again. It was just like when he scored the 81, his team needed him that night. Utah was trying to get into the playoffs. Kobe couldn't get to a championship that year, but he was going to spoil somebody else's opportunity if he could. And he went at Utah hard that game. I know they just showed that game last night again. Hopefully some of y'all caught that. But yeah, Kobe, he was just all of it. Even though he was, to me, considered not quite Mike, it's like splitting hairs with that one. For me, Kobe had a better handle. Game looked smoother. His range with his jump shot was better. Wasn't quite as explosive and athletic as MJ to me, but he was just, dialed in at all times, from what he learned watching Mike's game, what he learned from Hakeem Olajuwon working on his post game. And then everything he did for other players in the league, I really appreciated, how he passed along the game to people, how he took the footwork he learned from Mike and Olajuwon and tried to teach other guys, how he taught LeBron the importance of defense and the importance of work ethic. Even though LeBron had a work ethic before he met Kobe, he showed him that next level. And he, brought back Team USA basketball at a time when we was acting like we didn't care about USA basketball no more because our players was just the best, and then we got that awakening when we didn't win the gold medal, and they put together, Jerry Colangelo and Coach K started working on revamping Team USA, and we had that redeemed team. Kobe led that well, and really started that process of getting guys to love to play again and want to go out there and hoop. So I appreciate Kobe for that. It made me really like watching Team USA again. And, Kobe could have did anything he wanted to in life. He chose basketball, chose to be the best at it. This is a guy who announced he was taking his talents to the NBA years before LeBron announced he was taking his talents to Miami. This is a guy who got a 1,400 on his SATs, and speaks or spoke multiple languages fluently, used to communicate with Pau Gasol during games speaking Spanish, so the other team didn't know what they were saying and what their communication was happening with that. Being able to play against the Spanish national team and know what they're saying and translate it to the USA team, it's a hell of an advantage to have when you got a guy on your team like that. Highly intelligent guy. He could have went to school and went to college and did something else, like I said. But he was great. He showed us that being smart and intelligent has a lot more to do than just going to college. That, you can actually look into, you can do your own research. You can study on your own. and put in the time and work to gain your knowledge. Yeah, Kobe just really meant a lot to me, to the game of basketball. I used to watch his moves like everybody else and, try to add them into my game when I would be playing basketball just like everybody else did. But there's only one Black Mamba, only ever will be. Some people he was better than Mike, and that you're welcome to that opinion. He was damn as close as it gets to me. And, I was really happy to see what he was doing after. It was obvious the way he left it out on the floor that last game that he didn't need to come back to play ball. What else was he going to prove? What else could he do? Not to mention he was getting older, and he just left it to the side. Wasn't one of those guys that needed to come back and prove something. He had did it. Focused right in on the arts, winning an Oscar, telling stories. That's something I didn't know about him as much when he was playing, how he used to do a lot of drawing and write a lot of stories in his spare time, even while he was playing basketball. The time, he put in with his family after the situation we know he had early in his career and things that went on in Colorado and how he turned himself around there. That's where the Mamba name, came from, and that other persona he kind of used to deflect or separate himself and his family life from the athlete and the killer that he was on the court. Gave somebody a target, something they could aim at without coming directly at him and his family. So that was a genius marketing scheme, and it was true because he was the Black Mamba out there on the floor. Seeing him and his daughter and how she was starting to develop her game like his, that was big time for me. How involved he was as an ambassador for the game, but not trying to coach, not trying to come back and be a GM or anything like that. He was doing his own thing, showing you the intellect and the overall talent that he had mentally on top of the physical to be whatever he wanted to be and do whatever he wanted to do. We're going to miss Kobe, of course. The game's going to miss him, but the game had him. It's crazy. I've learned in life a lot of times the most special people do die young. I guess the Lord, put them on the earth to do a lot in a short period of time, and sometimes they go away from us very quickly. Kobe was the first to do a lot of things. He got into the league before a lot of people. He was winning championships before a lot of people. He dropped 81 when we didn't think that could happen. Came back and scored 60 in his final game after an Achilles injury when we didn't think that was going to happen. And then won an Oscar. Who saw that coming? That wasn't something an athlete was going to do, And then he passed when we didn't see that coming. I guess he wanted to beat us to heaven too. So good luck up there, Kobe. Keep the Mamba mentality. Keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you. Appreciate what you meant to the game and what you meant to me. And I'm looking forward to seeing where people take your legacy from here and who learns from the tape you left for us to see and all that film we got to go back on and learn from. That being said, Kobe was all about the show. He was a showman. And we got the biggest show ready to come up this weekend. The Super Bowl. Showtime Mahomes. My man John, he think that these 49ers about to do something, and I used to be a 49ers fan. I know Rob Johnson I be seeing on Facebook. He like those 49ers too. Sorry. The show coming. Showtime in Miami. Let's go!